Welcome to another episode of Jay Leno's Garage. Well, it's finally here, the first McLaren, the US McLaren. I was really excited about this. If you've watched this website, you know we went to England last year and test drove the car, just fantastic. Well, it arrived about a week and a half ago, and we put some, I put almost 1,000 miles on it, actually. And I'm quite fortunate to have the CEO of McLaren here, a gentleman by the name of Mike Fluid. He's going to talk us through the car a little bit, tell us some facts, and then we'll go for a ride. We'll take you for a ride, and we'll show you what it's like on actual roads. You've all seen this at Abu Dhabi and in Nürburgring, but to see it on the street and drive it on the street is a whole different experience. Let's meet Mike. Mike, come on in. How are you? Congratulations.
Hi, good, great to see you, thank you.
McLaren is a new car company, and with car companies going out of business or merging all across the globe, literally, this is one of the few companies to be successful and turn a profit. It normally takes 8 to 10 years for a car company to turn a profit. You guys have done it in what?
4.5 years.
4.5 years. Well, just by making terrific products, the 12C, been thrilled with that. I've had it 2 years, and it's been to 2 services. And that's all. So all I've done is change the oil. It's fantastic. It's really good. And of course, the legendary F1.
Yeah.
And let's hope that the P1 holds its value as the F1 is done, which I think it will. We're a bit worried that maybe 375 might be too high a goal, because they were going to sell 300 of these, weren't they?
Yeah, and we sold, including the race cars, just over 100, 105 I think the number is.
Were you on pins and needles a little bit?
It was fascinating when we launched this, and we had to define a number. You know, an exclusive car, buyers want to know how many cars there's going to be. And I'd love to claim there was this perfect science to working out 375. we looked at the people who expressed interest, we took a judgment call, we set it at 375, and after showing this at Paris, there was interest. A lot of interest came in, and then that interest slowly started to convert. But I think what sealed it was in the middle of last year. You came over, you drove it, and it was publicised. We took it up the hill, Goodwood.
Right.
We brought it over to Pebble Beach, and in the space of 3 months, we went from 80 deposits to sold out.
Wow.
And now there's people on a waiting list waiting to get hold of this car. So, you know, I guess you could look at this and criticize me that I set the number too low. But actually, I think the exclusivity is important.
It's fascinating to watch some of the greatest motoring journalists just gush over this car like school children. You know, the things that makes it different from other supercars. Look at this width of the tires. They're big, but they're not too big. They're not goofy big, you know. You can dance in ballet slippers. You can't dance in work shoes. I know you're a big Lotus Elan fan.
I am. So I like delicacy. I like cars to be agile and have feel. And the beautiful thing about this, I mean, there's a few things, but you're right. We said we wanted to do the best driver's car on road and track. That was the goal.
Right.
And it's how we achieved the goal. So the chassis feels light and agile and feels phenomenal to drive. The powertrain, you could almost be daunted by the idea of a fairly low capacity, 3.8, 2 huge turbochargers on it, putting out over 730 horsepower as a petrol engine. You'd think, well, that's going to be difficult to drive. And then you make it hybrid and you put an electric motor in there and the battery pack. But actually, when you drive this, the only analogy I can give people is it feels like you've got a huge old-fashioned V8 behind you.
Right.
Because you've got so much torque and seamless acceleration. And that's just a credit to the engineers and the way they were able to calibrate and integrate that powertrain. So whilst it's a masterpiece of technology, it actually just feels like a wonderfully fun.
When I touch the brakes, they're instant. This has a thing called brake fill. And what that means is, the minute you take your foot off the gas, the brake pads move in, and
so they're ready.
Don't quite grasp the rotor. So the minute you touch that brake, boom, you're on. I have never seen a vehicle that stops like this. It is, I mean, it is unbelievable. The fact that I put 880 miles on it in the first 5 days, I can't stop driving it. And very light, very nimble. Everybody else's answer to hybrid is to go electric motor drives the front wheel. I think of this not so much as a hybrid. Imagine a car with a supercharger, but a supercharger is run by electricity rather than robbing engine power. And that's what you have here. You have essentially an electric supercharger, and not connected to the wheels, connected to the literally spinning,
the transmission,
spinning the crank and tricking the motor into thinking the turbos are in full boost. So there's no There's no such thing as turbo lag. If you got in this car, you'd think, oh, it's normally aspirated because I put my foot in it and boom, it went just like that. It's really amazing. It's really amazing.
A lot of the technical decisions were driven by the way we wanted the car to feel. So, you know, we could have gone with regenerative braking and created a little bit more, but actually you lose a little bit on brake feel. So you lose a little bit of the purity. So there were a set of objectives put in place by the team, and you've met some of the team, Paul McKenzie and Dan Parry Williams, the guys who did this, and then they worked out the solutions. And that's completely different than most car programs. Most car programs, you work out what you're doing, you go through a 3 or 4 year development plan, and you get the end result. Here it was, this is what we want to achieve, and now we've got to work out how to use technology to deliver that.
And the nice thing about this car is, someone like myself, I am not a race car driver, not by any extent, but I enjoy driving, I enjoy the feel of driving, and the fact that I can notice it, because I'm the type of guy, I take a car out on the track, what's that thumping? You got a flat. Oh, geez, didn't realize that. Whereas this, I mean, you can run over a dime and go, oh, that was heads. I can tell it was heads because it literally dances down the road. And the nice thing is, it's a road car that's also a race car. A lot of other manufacturers have the stake of taking their race car and turning it into a road car. This suspension, which is, I guess, similar to the 12C.
Similar. Certainly the front is different with the K dampers and so forth. But you know, in the sense that it's a kinetic hydraulic suspension system. So you're right. For road use, you've got a beautifully compliant ride. But the nice thing about this is the duality. You know, you can pull over, set it to race, the whole thing drops down. You're in a condition then that would be illegal for road use in most countries. But you've got a chassis then that's optimized for track.
But I know, riding it in sport, which is where you'd ride most of the time, I have other supercars, and I'll go down a particular road I know, and there's a bump, and I literally hop to the other lane. But just because the chassis is so stiff, it's so hard. This, I'm not even aware of the bump. This is the most dramatic change from road to track of any vehicle I've ever seen. It literally, it's like the movie Transformers. The thing changes and scoops come up, and it's just fantastic.
One of the really nice things is we're stood here talking about driving it. What we didn't want is for these cars to be bought, go sit in collections and not be driven. If we're going to produce a driver's car, we want people to drive them. And we've got guys now with P1s, and bear in mind we've only delivered 80 out of the 375 so far. We've got 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 miles on the clock. So they're not preserving them as a work of art that never gets used. They're driving and enjoying the cars.
Well, we should take it out and drive it right now.
Sounds perfect.
Okay, we know it's fast. It does a quarter mile in 9.7 and 149 miles an hour, but let's take it up the hills and you can see what it's like just to drive, just to experience what it's like to feel the road. It's just a fantastic driving car. Come on, let's go up in the hills. Now, if someone had purchased every McLaren the company has built and wanted to know the actual Nürburgring time and swore an oath that he would never repeat it to anyone, would that be possible? No. Well, I'm never going to find out. Do you know the time?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. But this is using hybrid technology for car enthusiasts.
Right.
Not just environmentalists. You know, it does make it a more efficient powertrain. This car has no gas guzzler tax in the US, which is amazing when you think of 900 horsepower. So it is a more efficient engine, but fundamentally it was done to make the powertrain fabulous.
Yeah, and you're looking at 34 miles per gallon.
You drive through the countryside with, you know, as a hybrid, 900 horsepower.
Right.
You come to a little village, you hit that, you drive sort of silently through the village.
Right.
As you come out the other side, you hit it again and you power out.
It's a blend of science and technology. It's just so seamless. Because a lot of people build hypercars with just big motors that make a lot of noise, but it's not this seamless and this smooth. You know, it's funny, all the McLarens I have, the one that has the most miles on it until this came along was the SLR. I have a friend who, he runs one of these schools where you take rich guys that want to go 200 miles an hour out to Muroc, and he's got Porsches and Lamborghini. The only car that consistently runs, honestly, over 200, 205, 206 is the SLR.
Yeah.
Because the others go 196 and then the guys want their money back. So that's the only car that constantly does it, time after time. And it's a bulletproof motor. It's just a fantastic V8.
I think the development team, the miles, the weeks, the months that Chris Goodwin and the team spent perfecting the feel of the brakes, perfecting the set of the dampers, perfecting the development of the tyres with Pirelli to get there. And it's easy for us to take it for granted when we drive the finished result. But
well, Chris Goodwin is fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, I was with him both times, and knows the vehicle inside out, loves the vehicle. I mean, that's what's fun about McLaren. It's still small enough so you kind of know the individual players, and everybody's extremely proud of the role they play.
But Chris has done more miles in P1 than anybody else in the world.
Well, tell him I'm going to try and beat him, so we'll see.
Yeah. This is a company of enthusiasts building what we believe are the best sports cars in the world. Because you've seen the size of the battery that goes behind the scenes here. It'll probably be a fraction of that size by the time we come and replace it. Carter are a clever company, do a good job for us building our engine. And
you know, it's a great engine. What they need to do now is put on a nice book, like they did on the F1.
Back on the F1, yes.
Because once you understand the car, then you can really bond with it.
I believe this car's as iconic as the F1. You know, the F1,
I think it is.
F1's around for 20 years, but this really is the modern age version.
The F1 is a wonderful car, but there is no margin for error. Whereas this will save you.
Yeah.
You know, you've got the brake steer and the stability control, and you can drive quickly without scaring yourself to death or killing anybody, and you never get the sense that you're over the double line. I've driven some of the big Italian exotics and some of the other cars. You always feel as if you've got one wheel over there because you're so wide, you know?
But this feels like a small car.
Yeah.
But good visibility is part of a good driver's car, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it sounds fantastic.
Ron Dennis will tell you McLaren is a technology company.
Right.
It uses technology to lead in motorsport. It uses technology to build the best sports cars, and I think people appreciate it. This isn't a fashion accessory.
Right.
This is for people who love driving.
We're going to say goodbye to Mike right now. He's got to get back to work. But you and I will go out and drive some more, and I'll show you the dashboard and how everything works on this car. Mike, thank you so much.
Jay, thanks. It was a pleasure.
And say hi to Ron Dennis. Tell him congratulations.
I will indeed. Thank you.
Come on, let's go drive some more. I want to thank Mike Fluid for stopping by. That's kind of cool. The head guy from McLaren coming by the garage. Of course, now that he's gone, we can talk freely. Chris Harris takes this car to Abu Dhabi, to that racetrack there, just flogs the heck out of it, does an incredible job. I enjoy his videos so much. And I've seen other people take it out at various tracks, Nürburgring. What I haven't seen is anybody drive this car in the street. And since I don't have access to a racetrack, and I'm not a race car driver, I just want to show you what it's like to drive in the real world. How comfortable it is, how small it is, how the car kind of envelopes around you. You know, we're driving along here at a pretty good pace, not crazy fast, but faster than I would go in perhaps a stock automobile from another manufacturer, just because I feel so confident in this car. And you hear these turbos behind you making all sorts of turbo noises. You know, it sounds like some animal breathing down your neck. Once, when I was on the Tonight Show, we had an animal called a liger, which was half lion, half tiger. It stood 11 feet tall, and it weighed 900 pounds. And it put its paw on my shoulder and went, and it sounded just like this turbo breathing down the back of my neck. You know, Mike talked about racing his Lotus Elan on the weekends, and that's what this makes me feel like. If you've been to my website, you've seen the Lotus we built, which is just the epitome of lightweight, small car, great handling. And this feels like that in some ways, except with 903 horsepower. This steering is not electric. It is a combination of it's hydraulic. The fluid is being pumped through the steering rack, and I think it is also through the suspension as well. So you get a wonderful sense of road feel in this car. Steering wheel's not filled with all sorts of buttons and things. I like having a clear steering wheel in front. And of course, this is brilliant. This keeps you from getting claustrophobic. These two kind of moonroof panels, for lack of a better word, in the ceiling here. I love that sound. It's fantastic. See, this is not a car you have to drive at ridiculously high speeds to get a lot of enjoyment out of. We talked about the tires. The tires are just the right size for this car to get the job done. You can bring the tail end out a little bit if you want. They're not these big, giant, wide things that'll hydroplane all over the place if you get a little bit of water. It's like a go-kart. It's just... You know those old movies where the guy would have the devil and the angel on each shoulder? That's kind of what this is like. The angel is the traction control and the suspension, because it always will save you. It just seems to catch you. I've never been frightened in this car. I've scared myself to death in the F1. But in this one, I always feel, no, you're all right. It's going to save you. You'll be fine. That engine sounds like Andre Bocelli. You know, a couple have asked me, hey, every time I see a video of the McLaren, it seems to be shooting fire out the back. Why is it shooting fire? Well, let me explain why that is. This engine makes a lot of heat. Your temperature going into the turbo is just about 1800 degrees. Exiting the turbo, 1600, something like that. So what happens is when you get off the throttle, it's still pumping fuel through the turbos. And the fuel is cooling the turbo. The liquid fuel helps to cool the turbo, bring the temperature down. Then the fuel goes through the turbo, hits the catalytic converter, and then it becomes a blue flame coming out the back. So that's that sexy blue flame. You see, there's a reason for that. That's why it does it. This engine makes a lot of heat. You've got to get rid of that much heat. You've got about, I think, 13 heat exchangers on this car, which is pretty amazing. But consequently, it's well over 100 degrees today here in Los Angeles. And oil, water, temperature, dead in the center. Nothing moves. Here's something I really find fascinating about this car. You're on the freeway. You've got a V8 with twin turbos. You can't really speed here, so what do? You put it in E mode like this. As you see the dashboard engine has stopped, and we're coasting in electric. Now, people go, why? What difference? You know, why buy gas when you don't have to? That's kind of the cool thing about it. The electric engine is now driving the car. So I can save all my gas for the fun stuff. You have what, 5 modes in this thing? You have hybrid mode, which is the standard mode. You have electric mode. You have sport, you have track, and then you have race. Here you can set, like for now, I have it set for sport handling for the road, sport for handling, track for performance, for shifting. When this car is in normal mode, it shifts very nicely. It shifts like a torque converter automatic. When you go into sport or track or race, boom, the shift becomes extremely sharp, extremely fast, much faster than you could ever shift by hand. There's absolutely no reason to use gasoline when you're in traffic or on the freeway. Just use the electric power. The other cool thing about this, I love about this engine, is there's no belt drives to anything. Even your air conditioning is driven off the electric motor. So it's all gear driven. There's no belts to replace, there's none of that. Maintenance is actually quite low. Okay, I have 0 miles on my electric now. Okay, now in about another mile when the electricity's been depleted, you'll hear the engine start. Okay. Okay, now see, I have 0 miles. There it is, the engine about to start, see? Boom. Okay, engine just kicked in. Now I'm using gasoline and I'm charging the battery. In 5 or 6, when that says 5 miles, the engine will again cut off and we will go back to electric power. It's really quite clever. We'll talk about iPass and the drag reduction system. You don't really need this on the street. There's no real call for it. I'm not quite sure you need it at all because you have full boost. When you go into race mode, you've got, what, 727 horsepower. Then when you want the extra boost electric motor, like on a straightaway, you hit that button and boom, you get an extra, what, close to 200 horsepower. A little kick in the pants there. I mean, it's a lot of fun. Your helmeted guy there, that's for your air conditioning right there. Then, of course, you have your phone, media, all that. You have apps. And if you do your homework and you study Frank Stephenson and Ron Dennis and all these guys, you realize they're really dedicated to what they do. You know, I think Frank Stephenson was about as excited as I was about me getting this car. In fact, when my car came off the line, he sent me a picture of himself. See, that's when you know guys are into their work, when they go down the line and they see their creation being built. You know, a lot of people find the styling of this car controversial. To me, I think it's controversial because it looks like the future. It doesn't look like any other car. And it looks the way it does for a reason. Airflow, design, there's logic behind everything in this car. There's nothing superfluous on here. You know, it's not like the 50s where they put wings and fins and all kinds of stuff. There's nothing on this car that doesn't need to be here. Before we sign off, I got to put in race mode for you. That's kind of cool. Let me show you how that works. To get into race mode, have it in neutral, parking brake on, press active, press race. Okay, now a lot of things start happening. Wing goes up, car gets lowered about a little over 2 inches. Feel the car immediately getting stiffer, you feel it tighten up. And boom, now you're in race mode. Your DRS system is powering up. You got your iPass as well. That all comes into play when you're in race mode. As you see, the wing is fully deployed. Well, that about does it. I've not had a chance to use race mode because they haven't taken this to track yet, but hopefully one day we'll take this out to Willow Springs and you can come with us on that. We'll film it and we'll show you what it's like. But I have to say, this is one of the most amazing vehicles I've ever encountered in my entire life. The fact that it works is amazing. The fact that it works seamlessly. And, you know, I'm almost at 2,000 miles in about 13 or 14 days. Hasn't used any oil, hasn't gotten hot, nothing's broken, everything seems to work. It's pretty amazing. I want to thank Ron Dennis and the team at McLaren for building such an amazing product. So, pretty cool. We see you guys again next week. Bye-bye.
Mm-hmm.